Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Underground number 1 through 4, a miniseries published by Dark Horse Comics in 1993 and 1994. And this is the brainchild of Andrew Vachss. If you're not familiar with Andrew Vachss is kind of this interesting person. He's almost like a real-life superhero where he kind of is more famous for his writing. He wrote all these best-selling hard-boiled crime-type novels, and he also, though, was a lawyer and specializing in children and adolescents. And basically, his whole life was this crusade against child abuse. And a lot of the stuff he writes deals with it. So you might be more familiar with a comic he wrote for Dark Horse called Hard Looks. One day we'll look at that. It's a really good series. And he's just an all-around good writer, though. He's tells a really good hard-boiled like crime story. But a lot of times it involves either the results of child abuse, the scars it leaves on people, even if the story isn't necessarily about child abuse. But this Underground's a really interesting concept. Andrew Vachss basically created the framework for a shared world universe story. You might be familiar with those from like fantasy, like Thieves' World and sci-fi. But so I guess this is sci-fi. It takes place in the future, but it's very different because it's a very dark view of humanity. And what he envisages here is something I thought about, when I was in college, I was thinking about how, there's all these apocalypses we see in sci-fi, nuclear war or a meteor hit Earth or something, whatever happened to make man post-apocalyptic. But what if everything was fine physically? Nobody was starving. The technology was fine. People were just living. But what if just morality eroded? Imagine living in a world where, sure, everyone's fed and there's, all this wealth around and technology, but everyone you meet, you have no clue what they might do to you. Where the whole rules of society, not even just the rules of society, just the ethics and morality of everyone is just eroded, and just people are basically monsters. And this is very similar to that. And so basically Andrew Vachss has surmised that in the future there's this thing that they just call the terror. Nobody knows what the terror is. It's not like nuclear war. It's not some kind of ecological collapse. It's more political and social. That's all he'll say about it. And everyone is driven underground. That's where food and medicine is. The rulers are the rulers, and they set up the rules. So instead of actual moral codes, like most majority of humans live by, they just have rules, and people follow the rules just because they're scared of getting punished. But in this future, it's almost like this whole world, everyone's been scarred by abuse, just because in this world people just treat their kids terribly, and they grow up to be monsters, and so on and so on. So it's this interesting post-apocalyptic world. Sorry I'm rambling on so much about it, but I found this fascinating. I kind of wish this just kept going. It's a really interesting shared world, kind of rich. He really creates a lot of nuances in it, and just all these amazing details. We start off with number 1. I forgot who does the cover, but I'll tell you in 1 second after we turn the page. It's some guy named Harry O. Morris. Pretty interesting cover. And we have the contents page here. Every issue starts with this thing written by Andrew Vachss that kind of lays down the ground rules. Tells you about this world. Pretty much what I just told you, but just much more eruditely and not as boneheadedly. I should mention, Dark Horse Comics really went to town on this. The covers are kind of cardstocky, slick paper, really nice paper. I guess it would be better if it wasn't slick, but it's nice paper, and it's just a really handsome, well-designed comic. And so this first story is There Is No Dog. And this is written and illustrated by John Bergen. And John Bergen is famous for his, I can't remember the title, but I think Tundra put it out. This massive graphic novel he did. It's escaping me. But I believe we saw some of his work when we looked at Fly in My Eye, those anthologies about a year ago. This one's amazing. It's from a dog's point of view. I always love those stories. And this dog finds a dead baby. I mean, this is the kind of thing that in the tunnels underground, I mean, life is cheap down there. This dog, for some reason, is just it makes him sad. And he picks up the baby and just starts walking through the tunnels. He's basically a loner dog who has no pack. So these rats come out, and the dog protects the dead baby from the rats. A gang shows up, and they chase the dog. And so he carries the baby up these stairs. He's trying to escape. I think he actually wants to go outside. Of course, outside with a capital O. It's a mythical thing that, like, the surface world where we live now, supposedly nobody's ever been there and come back. So they don't know if it's just a horrible irradiated hellhole. Nobody knows. But most people are scared to go. So this scary, I love the way he draws these wolves here, just so feral. Almost reminds me of like Steve Bissett. So they chase the dog and they surround him. And this poor dog, who doesn't seem to understand that, like, the baby's dead, but for some reason still has this protective instinct for this baby, dead baby. And she fights off this whole, like, I don't know, it looks like 40 of the dogs. Bravely just attacks them and tries to defend the baby. And she actually fights them to a bloody standoff. I guess the dogs think it's not worth their time, and they walk off. And so then she looks at the baby. I thought this was so sad. The dog figures the only way to save it from the heartless scavengers and maggots is to put it inside, put it in her, where nothing could ever reach it. So she eats the baby. But in her mind, that's her way of protecting it. And she goes back to that staircase. She's going to escape to the outside. And then we hear a gunshot. And we see this little kid. And he shoots the dog. And he says, "I'm going to eat good today." And then we see the rats descending upon this rattle. Very sad. So the one thing that I almost didn't want to review this comic, there's a lot of prose in it. It's like half comics, half prose. And I gotta say, though, all the stories were really good. I really like Andrew Vachss writing. I pretty much just know it from Hard Looks. I never read any of his novels. And so through these short stories, though, they really build up the world. So there's all these gangs down there. This is about a member of the Game Boys. So their thing is all about playing video games. And throughout the story, starting with the narrator, basically he starts killing bums, and because basically to get marks on your jacket, it's almost like having like stripes if you're in the military. Like if you get the high score in a video game, you'd get a red slash on your sleeve, and the more you got, the more prestige you had. But then he kills this bum one day. So basically bums are just, it sounds like they're, just anyone who's not affiliated with a gang who lives on the street. And he says, "Oh, I should get a mark for that." And they're like, "Okay." And so then it becomes this, it's so horrifying. It becomes this total trend. It spreads to the other gangs. And within a month or so, everyone's hunting hobos and cutting off their ears for trophies. It wasn't a thing before, but just one guy started it. And then by the end of the story, it's entrenched. All the gangs are doing it. And this guy goes deeper and deeper into the uncharted tunnels, which is basically just like black wasteland that you're technically not even supposed to be there. You get in trouble. And he starts looking like a hobo to trick them. Because, the hobos run anytime they see any of the gang guys because they're terrified. So he's like the king of the hobo killers at the end of the story. But then there's a little great twist at the end where I guess the hobos now are making their own gangs to defend themselves, and they attack the guy. Next, we have Carol Swain, the great English cartoonist, doing My Job. And this is about a hunter. Now, these are basically sanctioned by the rulers, the corp, as they call it, the corporation. It seems like it's basically a corporate fascist government, And I don't know why, but this hunter with this weird helmet on is paid to hunt down people. I think even hunt down these bums and these hobos. Oh, I guess it's because they're in the uncharted tunnels where they're not supposed to be. So even if they're not hobos, even if they're just gang members who stumbled down there. Really interesting seeing Carol Swain draw a story like this. Because, it's kind of sci-fi-y. And she usually writes and draws very down-to-earth stories. But her art, I think, is perfect for this series, for Underground. Because it's a bleak, gray, crappy world. Almost like the one she draws when she draws England, So now we have another short story. This one is so bizarre. It's by Steve Raznick-Tim. I don't know if I told you guys. I forgot. That last story about the Game Boys and the killing the bums, that's by Andrew Vachss. So this is by Steve Raznick-Tim. I also forgot to tell you who drew it. Kind of interesting art in that. That's Harry O. Morris. The guy who did the cover. And now this is Jeff Dickinson, who, this guy's been around since the 70s, I think. Drawing in little fanzines and stuff. And this one is so perverse. So in the future, there's really no families. I guess because people were hurt so much by their families, by their parents. This terror that happened. It almost seemed like an apocalypse of just child abuse. So this gang is all like, hey, you know what? We should maybe start a family. I kind of miss those. And who's going to be the daddy? And the narrator, he's voted to be daddy. And, he's like, but you have to follow the rules or you won't be daddy anymore. Because that's the problem with families. The fathers and mothers didn't follow the rules and did bad things to the kids. So we see all the rules. But as soon as the rules are enacted, you can tell the narrator is already trying to get around him. He really likes being daddy. He likes the power. And he also doesn't want to go by these rules. So it's a really disturbing psychological portrait of what's sociological too. It's creepy as hell. And of course, by the end of the story, he's worse than any abusive father ever. He breaks all the rules, but he does it in such a way that nobody either knows or they're too scared of him to say anything. This is Potions by Isolde by Diane Patterson. And let me get the artist on this one. This is, Guy Burwell. That guy's been around for a while, too. I always mix this guy up with Guy Davis. I think this guy works with Timothy Bradstreet sometimes. I can't remember. I always get confused where I've seen this guy, but he's pretty damn good. And so this is about the magic girls. So they make potions. That's their gang thing. And, but basically it sounds like they're just drugs. They're good drugs. And this one girl, the narrator, is really good at making drugs. She's like a chemist. And it's interesting, in this world, basically no one's allowed to kill anyone. Nobody. And except for the cops, I think. But I think they're not like Judge Dredd. They have to convict you, and then, you're tried. And either they'll kill you or send you out to the outside for infractions. But it's just so the rules are very rigid, and they do keep the peace, I guess. But of course, there's people get around them all the time. There's many murders in here, in these comics, and death. So this one's kind of like a film noir type, where this narrator gets revenge on her gang leader, who's kind of bullying her. This next one's called Pooch, and it's by Philip Hester, writing and drawing. This is the kind of Philip Hester I like the stuff that we saw in Negative Burn. And then when he went to DC, I really stopped liking Phil Hester a lot. His simplified style. This stuff I kind of like. This is an interesting kind of story, basically about a serial killer. He's this kid, and he hears voices within women because he works at a sex club. So these prostitutes, he hears a little voice coming from within them, and he feels like he has to free them. To free their souls, their captured angelic souls. Of course, he's just psycho. And he goes around just killing women left and right. Really interesting art by Hester here. It also has this, I should point this out, kind of an interesting little poetic thing where the side here is just totally different than this. It is poetic. The flesh parts reluctantly, but soon splits wide. The way little girls smile, slowly at first. Then those flashing bright gums, the sheen of meat, describing, inflicting a wound on some woman. Yeah, this is a really good story. Well written, really nice art. If you're into this sort of thing, he has an odd style. I like it though. So, and at the very end, after killing hundreds of women, he realizes that one day, he says, because today, for the first time, I heard my own voice. So he's got two knives pointed at his own chest. He's gonna free those voices just like he did to the women, kill himself. Next we have Way Down by Bill Kreider. Let me see the art on this one. This is Monty Sheldon. God, I'm having a mental block here. Monty Sheldon. I always mix it up with God damn it, we just looked at him in Dark Horse Presents. I'll think of it in a second, I hope. And just another great story about the tunnels. And these stories all kind of build on themselves. So other stories refer to the fact that, oh yeah, this bum hunting is a thing now. And I better get some ears. So something that'll happen in one story will change the other stories in the future. This is definitely like a film noir story. This guy's in love with a male prostitute, and he basically is he's going deep into the tunnels to get some answers, to get some loot, so he can take care of his lover. And at the end, it turns out that the lover totally double-crossed him and sold him out to some shitty guy. I like how all these have contributors' notes. That's very nice. And yeah, Monty Sheldon isn't even listed here. Damn it. Oh, this is driving me crazy. Oh, okay, I think Monty Sheldon... Wait, is that the guy who does Devil Chef? Okay, I'm just a senile old man. Don't listen to me. Whatever, you can always look it up on Wikipedia. Next, we have number 2, Bob Fingerman cover, painted cover. Kind of interesting. So that's the interesting thing about this comic too. It seems like all kinds of can be told. Like the first story here, which is by Bob Fingerman, writing and drawing, is kind of like a comedy, a very sick, dark comedy. There's a store in the underground called the Pain Merchant. It's for penitents and very rich, weird Christians who feel like they need penance can go in there and buy the latest in torture devices. We see this, minimum wage worker, this kid, this kind of punk rock looking kid, shows up late. His manager gives him shit. So a lot of this is it's like Bob Fingerman, minimum wage, almost like sitcom humor. Just everyone's doing like snappy patter, because there's this woman who works there as well, and Gretchen. So this guy comes in, a really rich guy, and he says, "Oh, I want the works." And so they show him like the special room for priority customers only. He's like, "Hey, I got the money. Sure, I want your best top of the line shit." This art is very inconsistent. Some of the faces look kind of interesting and cool to me, and then some are just like, eh. Not Bob Fingerman's best art. So there's this new device, and it's this thing that basically works on fear. You lay down in it, and there's like whirring, barbed wire coils above you, and spiked cylinder below you, spinning at incredible speeds. And it's so scary that it's almost as bad as being hurt. As pain. So the guy says, "This is great. This is the scariest thing I've ever had. I'll totally buy it." And they turn it off. Well, they try to, and the switch is broken. So it just keeps going. The cylinders get closer and closer to him, and this guy is just turned into dog meat. You see blood splattering everywhere. The manager, of course, is furious. He's like, "This is going to cost us so much. And the very last panel, the punk rock guy says, "God, I hate working retail." So obviously this is just played for yucks, showing this dark, brutal world, but telling a funny story. Next we have Memorial by Beverly A. Hale and Michael B. Moe. And this art is by, oh my God, it's Jason Lutes of Berlin fame. I would never guess that was him. That's very detailed. This is about the Book Boys. So there's no internet underground, but the Book Boys are graffiti guys who, their whole thing is about putting up the news. Whatever is the word on the street, they spray paint it and let everyone know. And a lot of people trust them. It's the way people look on the walls and say, "Hey, what happened yesterday?" "Oh, yeah, there's some 5 new tags about who died, who got sent outside with a capital O." So it almost seems like every story talks about a different gang. Really good story. Just about this book boy. There's an old guy. I think he even remembers the time before the terror. He's taught all of these young book boys since they were little kids how to read, how to write, how to tag. But now he's just like, they kind of think he's just this crazy old man, whatever. And the old man gets killed because now they're going after bums. And they think he's an old bum, even though he's not. Pretty touching story. Next we have Mina the Dancing Girl. And let me get this one. This is written by Karen Haber, illustrated by Jason McAuliffe. It's very interesting on this one. So this is about the love tunnels, the pink tunnels. And that's basically like the red light district. And it gets a lot of business. In this world, I think normal, tender, real romance doesn't really exist. Because everyone's a sociopath in this world, or most people are. So basically, humans have sexual needs, right? So basically, prostitution is just That's how you have sex in the future. You earn some credits and hire someone. So this is about Mina and very weird art. I think I like it. I wasn't sure. It's very interesting. So she's got a boyfriend, Mina, and she says, you know, when you're a dancing girl like her, you're stuck in the pink tunnel, in the love tunnel. You can't go anywhere else. And she's curious. She wants to see the rest of the underworld. And he's like, it's not nice. I mean, she's like, I don't care. I want to see it. So she dresses up as a boy, and she's going to join his gang. It's a very risky thing. If they find out, he's in big trouble. So I guess this future world's very sexist, too. We see them hunting a bum. Actually, that's her initiation. She chases down this bum, and she kills him with no compunction. In fact, she seems to like it. And I guess this turns on her boyfriend, and he wants to like have sex with her right then and there. She's like, no, we can't. We're outside the love tunnel, the pink zone. And she actually smashes his face with a brick because he's really like coming up, like not taking no for an answer. So then the gang sees this and they chase Mina. They still think she's a boy. And she slides down the chute. And she shows up in this rich guy in Aristo's apartment. I guess there's still rich people in the future who have pretty nice little apartments and stuff. And, of course, you know, he propositions her. She bricks him, too. So she's really good with the brick. She's a regular Ignatz, this one. And she escapes. And now she's stuck out in the underworld with no gang. And next we have Mad Dog by Stephen Heltham. And this art is by Ryder Windham. He did a lot of stuff for Dark Horse over the years. I think he did Star Wars stuff. And this one's pretty interesting. It's about this guy, everyone calls him Coyote. And he works at the hydro farms. Now, the hydro farms is like a prison. I mean, it's necessary, but basically, if you do a minor offense in this underworld, the first place they'll sentence you to is a year at the hydro farm. So it's not good. But this guy loves it because there's actually things growing. He's a Native American guy, and he just feels harmony at the hydro farm. It's the only place in the underworld where he's like, this is harmony. This is the way the world's supposed to work. You feed and nurture the soil, plants, they grow. You know what I mean? Like that's nature. But the rest of the underworld isn't like that. Excuse me, guys. I gotta get some water. So apparently there's some sabotage going on with the dehumidifier panels and the hydroponics. And this guy's trying to get to the bottom of it. Yeah, I guess I'm not going to go too deeply into these prose stories since they're not comics. Usually I don't even talk about prose, but these are all really interesting. They all add to this world. Now we have Virtual Reality, and this is written by James Colbert, illustrated by Gary Marshall. So many of these artists I've never heard of before. I probably have seen them and just forgotten. They've probably been in like Dark Horse Presents and stuff. And so this is about another gang, which I forgot who they are. Let's see if we'll find out. Oh no, this guy is he's a I don't know if he tests it for the corporation. He has access to virtual reality. This one, to be honest, I didn't quite understand. It was a little too heady for me. And he's found by a cop. Hey, because he's in the uncharted tunnels where he shouldn't be. And then the narration goes to him now, this cop. He actually doesn't even work for the corporation anymore. He just does it because he loves it. He loves seeing the light snuffed out in people's faces. Next, we have Tunnel of Love by Andrew Vachss. And the art on this is Derek Chamberlain. And kind of like this art. Kind of weird. So, once again, the short story elaborates more of this world. I guess there's old wise people called sages here in the underworld. Some more of this weird art. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, this is, I should just mention this because this is going to be a stories based on this later on. This is about some old guy who's basically collecting all the children, actually stealing them from their parents. Because even though there's not many families in the underworld, it's almost like the government will raise you for the most part. But there are families. But this guy, he's kind of a psychopath too. He's a serial killer. The way he talks about it, he'll steal children and then kill the parents. But he doesn't say killing the parents. I can't remember. He's got some weird euphemism. And he's basically making a colony of kids deep in the uncharted tunnels. And so even though he's a murderer, but he does seem to be like have made this better society for these children. Oh, he calls the parents the closed hearts. He takes them. And at first, the first page, I was like, what is he talking about? And that's his way of saying, I kill the parents. I take their closed hearts. He actually rips them open and takes their hearts out. So I guess it's like he's got all these dogs down there that protect them, like a wild pack of dogs that he's trained. Really interesting story. Contributors notes and see what I was talking about? Just nice graphics all around. Very well-designed comic. So now we have a cover from Al Davison of Spiral Cage fame. This guy's sometimes can be really good. Sometimes he's a little nephew art like this wheelchair is so dumb. I don't know. It's overall, I think, pretty nice cover though. So here's the Al Davison story. Oh, sorry, not yet. This is Watcher, written and illustrated by Jason Lutes. And once again, we see the Game Boys from the first issue. The gang, the video game gang. And they're hunting bums. And they have a young initiate. They're basically saying, okay, this is your first kill. Kill your first bum. We can tell this guy doesn't like it, though. This skinhead-looking kid. He's really not into this. But he actually, and then, I mean, we don't realize how little he likes this until he lets one of his fellow gang members just die, get hit by the subway. They call it the conveyor. And then he goes to the love tunnel and gets this prostitute. And he basically puts a gun in her hand. She thinks it's some kinky foreplay thing. But he holds her wrist to his forehead. And she says, I won't do it. If you want that, you have to do it yourself. Oh, that's how the story ends. This guy is just fucked. He just wants to kill himself. Really like the story. Really nice Jason Lutes art. Next, we have Bad Babies by Andrew Vachss. This is by Omaha Perez. He used to do a lot of that painterly art when that was a trendy thing in the late 80s for like Eclipse Comics and Millennium Comics, you know. So this is about the Book Boys again, talking about, and also gives us a little background on this world, how first came the bad babies. So basically implying that, you know, there's just enough kids were just abused, the majority of them, that just, they grew up to be, you know, have a shaky grasp on morality and empathy. This just gives us a lot of background about a lot of the different gangs. I love this kind of stuff, like world building stuff. So we're introduced to a new gang. The narrator belongs to the Merchant Boys, who, you know, are merchants. He meets this woman deep in the tunnels, and it sounds like it's kind of love. In this world, I think they don't even, nobody uses that word. That's how, you know, fucked up mankind and society's gotten. And so now, I believe that this is a callback. Let me double check. Oh, this is a callback to that story about the crazy guy who would kill the parents, rip their hearts out, and take the kids. So our narrator here is deep in the tunnels, and he actually shows up there. And he joins them. And so, you know, he says, the last paragraph, he's like, that was about a year ago. And ever since then, you know, things have been much better. So here we have Al Davison's story, Leftovers. And we see this guy, his name's Needles. He's an empath. And he can't walk, though. He's got this really silly-looking wheelchair type thing. And one day he finds a woman about to be killed by a wild dog. A bunch of wild dogs. So he rams through them with his wheelchair and rescues her. So basically it's a psycho gang leader raped her and left her down there for the dogs to kill. So now Needles, they call him Needles because he does acupuncture. And it seems like they've got something going on between them. They kind of like each other. So his gang are all handicapped. One of them is mentally handicapped. He's physically fine. But the other ones are in wheelchairs. They have a flipper baby. I know you probably shouldn't say that anymore. I have imagine. It's not cool, but I don't know what it's called. Sorry. And it seems like they have a very spiritual component. Al Davison really seems to pour over Needles' face. He has the most, all the pictures of Needles is like the most detail. So this mentally handicapped guy, he does this weird dance. That's pretty nice. This reminds me of like classic, I don't know, like Gray Morrow or something, or some guy from the 60s or 70s. And look at this weird picture. It's almost like something from a New Age magazine. So then we see that guy who raped that woman. He heard that she was rescued by Needles, and that pisses him off. Like, how dare she survive my attack? And now is, you know, hanging out with someone else. This guy right here. He's just a terrible gang leader. He's a really bad guy. I remember Al Davison did this in the Spiral Cage back in the 80s, using kind of like childlike art. Kind of like that. I wonder if he did that before Electric Assassin. Actually, I think he didn't. I think it was after. Late 80s. More late 80s. Some of this art is almost just like, you know, like almost like Paul Galassi or something. Or Brian Bolland. Just kind of classic illustrative style. But then it seems like he can't sustain it. So that bad gang leader, he attacks our hero, Needles. And Needles just whips him into the corner. I guess he knows martial arts. And this guy runs. Yeah, look at that. That's Paul Galassi. That's a Shang-Chi right there if he was bald. I like it, though. I'm not complaining. And so then there's a big showdown. And it looks like he's going to have his way again with the Riff. That's the woman who Needles rescued. And then it's like they do one of their little spiritual weird things again. And it's almost like they're so filled with positivity and love that he's paralyzed. He can't do anything. He says he couldn't take his eyes off Riff, her smiling face, as the circle closed around him. He had never been so scared of anything his whole life. Interesting. Next is Somebody Warm and Tender by Rex Miller. This is a very slick art. It kind of looks like Patrick Nagel or something. And this artist is named Jason Rodriguez. So one of the gangs are called Love Boys. And I guess they're like male prostitutes. So just more fleshing out of the world. Kind of interesting. This is one of my lesser favorite stories in this series. Most of the stories are really good. But it's not bad. It's not as good as some of the other ones. Okay, now we got number 4, the last issue. This guy's I've never seen before. Very odd style. And as we'll see later, very odd writing. He's all around odd. His name is Derek Chamberlain. Oh, we saw him last issue. Kind of like this. Just weird character design there. Man, this story blew me away. This is called Freak, and it's written by John Weeks, who I don't know who that is, but drawn by Ted Knife, which he did the comics for Dark Horse. He did, I think he did comics for Veronica, and he kind of started off as this like almost like dark, like maybe Bernie Wrightson wannabe, kind of like Kelly Jones, Kyle Hotz, dark kind of art. But look at this. This totally reminds me of later Barry Windsor Smith, like the Monster graphic novel. This is really amazing art. I've never seen Ted Knife draw like this. I was actually very surprised. So this is about a kind of a hacker guy, this guy here. His username is Wichita Lineman. And I guess, kind of like Andrew Vachss himself, he's hunting pedophiles on the internet. That's his whole like mission in life. We see this creepy guy. God, this art is so nice. He's checking out little girls and little kids. So we're like, oh, keep an eye on this guy. He goes into his apartment, sets up his computer, and he starts trolling, going to these nasty, like, dark web sites. Welcome to Playground. and there's little kids drawing. And the little kids, it's like a cartoon of a little kid. He says, "I'm Timmy. Would you like to play with me?" And he says, "Yes." Look at that great drawing there. Amazing stuff. And then I love this. The little cartoon of Timmy gets giant teeth. And he says, "I think I'll play with you instead." And we see the guy get zapped out of his chair. This comic is pretty much of a revelation to me. I want to see more of his black and white art. This is amazing stuff. And I thought this was a really interesting sci-fi concept. So this hacker guy, I probably don't even understand this. I'm so bad at science and stuff. But he basically made a virus, a computer virus, that actually acts like a real virus, sending all these weird subliminal things, and it seizes up your nervous system. Basically, your body tricks itself into thinking that it's under attack. So almost like AIDS, where it's attacking the white blood cells. So let me try to see if I can explain this. So it says, a compressed feed of subliminal images followed with a virus simulation convinces the immune system it's under attack. Immune reaction creates the symptoms. So he actually basically gave this guy meningitis through his computer. I thought that was a fascinating idea. And the whole time he keeps saying something like, his friend keeps writing him and saying like, "Man, you've really upped your game. You're really going after these guys." And he says, "Well, it matters a lot more now." Something to that effect. And we realize at the end that he now has a kid. So. That's why he's got a hard on for these pedos, and he wants to kill them all. Next is Love Goes to a Building on Fire. Scott A. Cup. And this is about another one of the love boys. Or maybe these guys are called the sex boys. They're kicking it up a notch. And this guy, everyone calls him the love god. I guess he's like the king of the sex boys. So he's remembering a loved one who's gone now, a Mitchell. We don't really know much about Mitchell, but he's thinking about Mitchell, and he's just like, God damn it. He's obviously very sad. So he goes out to get some food. And God damn it, I thought I was going to remember who did this. Oh, Chris Moeller of Shadow Empires fame. Did a lot of Star Wars work too. Really nice. I just love the way this looks, this spread. So, and all of a sudden a fire breaks out. He's going to just run and go home. But some local guy puts a gun in his head and says, "You're going to help me, the water brigade. You're going to help put out this fire." So he does, and he kind of gets into it. Oh, I jumped ahead. And then he hears a baby. So he runs into a burning building, and he sees a little baby. The mother's dead, and the sibling's dead. And he says, "This reminds me of something from my earliest memory, kind of a repressed memory." And it turns out that he was a baby. When he was a little baby, he was rescued from a fire by Mitchell. So Mitchell was like his father figure. And so now this guy, who basically has just been leading a decadent life of drug use and whatever, trying to escape his demons, it basically changes him. And he steals the baby. Well, the baby has no parents anymore, but it's against the law. So he sneaks the baby back to his house. And it says, like Mitchell before him, the love god had found a son. He had found something to give meaning to his life. Kind of sappy, but I think it's earned by how decadent the first 3 pages are. Next we have Myths by Kidge Johnson. The art in this is by Ray Lago. He did a lot of stuff back in the 80s and 90s for Marvel, and kind of one of those painterly artists too, but this is a pretty nice art. Almost looks like a more tighter Gene Colan. But this is about the Myth Girls. So the Myth Girls, it sounds like they're almost shamanistic, where they go into these fits or altered states and tell myths and stories, and people pay them. It almost seems like this is therapy in this world. There is no psychiatrist in this world, but it seems like people will go to these myth girls and be like, tell me what I need to know. Maybe they're almost like fortune tellers too. Fortune tellers / psychiatrists. So this is about a girl who escapes from the government because she's a savant. So her parents sold her off, and the government gave them a nice price because she's a savant, which means, they're going to breed her and selectively perform surgery on her. So will be a really good super bureaucrat, hacker type computer person. But she escapes, joins the myth girls, and she's thrilled that for once there's people who just like her, not because they can use her. But at the end of the story, we realize, because she's so popular, she's really good at doing the myth stuff, that the leader of the gang, who she thought just cared about her, she's just like, when one of the agents of the corporation comes to bring her back, she basically says, nah, she's been bringing us so much cred and money. We don't want to go back to that. You're not taking her. She's valuable to us. So at the end of the story, this poor girl is just off on her own. She realizes that everyone is just wants to use her, doesn't love her for who she is. This one's called On the A Train by Pam Knowles. This art, which looks like it's done on a computer, is by Douglas Winter. And to be honest, I can't remember one thing about this story. I'm trying to scan it. Oh, this is a sad one. This is basically about a male prostitute. He's got that whole sick relationship with his pimp. He's totally in love with Sweet D, his name is. And obviously, he's a pimp. So, he every now and then he'll give him affection if he makes a lot of money. But most of the time he's slapping him around or withholding love from him. And he's a total sucker for it, this poor narrator. Oh, I forgot to mention, sorry. The real, protagonist in this is a psychic who gets on a subway car, and basically she likes to inhabit people's brains. And so that's one of 4 people. So we get 4 little stories, basically character sketches, just because she's jumping into people's heads and she can see what their, hopes and fears are and their memories. This one, unfortunately, has a lot of prose. The prose to comics ratio is way high. This is The Surviving Kind by Del Stone Jr. Art is by Dave Dorman. Big fan of Dave Dorman's black and white art. Really good stuff. Well, I like his color art, too. So this is about a guy trying to join the Vampire Boys. And so I guess this is a gang that they got white skin, because they live deep in the tunnels. So it's dark. This guy named Ed Man. And basically his initiation, he's got to drain this woman, this sacrificial virgin. And it turns out it's his mom at the end. I mean, he knows and doesn't care. He's just like, you'd be happy, Mom. I'm going to survive now, just like you taught me. And so next we have that story written and illustrated by the cover artist, Eric Chamberlain. As you can see, the art is more of the same as the cover. This is about the Cricket Boys, who are kind of the musician gang. And this is written in the craziest beatnik, cyberpunk, machine language. I don't know. It's really weird writing. I'll try to give you a flavor of it. Cricket Boys sing is what they do. Everything they do is based on beat. Drums made out of chrome pipes and canvas and alligator skins. Sticks made out of ribs. Headbands and scarves made from the flayed hands of rival drummers. Bird calls, wooden pipes, skull and cross moans. way gear like Reolithic noir, with Apache canteens and Coke bottle medallions, spider spike stitches on a gang jacket, blue weave with blood red embroideries, and a copperhead collar piece. It's a very colorful language. I kind of liked it, even though, just for the poetry of it and the obviously this guy just loves words, and it's almost like he's luxuriating in these words. But sometimes I didn't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm like, wait, what's going on? I don't know. But basically, once again, it's about a guy getting initiated into this gang. It's his initiation. And it's almost like a vision quest he goes on. Because the Cricket Boys are affiliated with the Spacey Boys, who they're like the real shamans in this world. They basically take drugs all the time. And they're just basically like crazy old hippies, even though they're not old. But they're just always whacked out on mescaline and whatever drug they can get. I thought there was something really interesting in here without even describing why or explaining himself. Out on bricks, a motley band of Joe Kubert figures collared around a steel drum rusted orange. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but I love it that he name-checked Joe Kubert. So pretty interesting story. I have a feeling I should read it again, because it really is. It's a lot to take in with his kind of interesting, colorful patois that he writes in. I think I like it, though. Even though I say I think, because sometimes I'm not sure what I was reading. You gotta slow down. So I forgot to finish my thought. He goes on this vision quest. He kills an alligator. That's part of his initiation. And then he's part of the gang. And there we see the last drawing here. And then finally, this comic is almost like Black Mirror, where almost every story is just like, wow, humanity sucks. But finally, at the end, Into the Light by Andrew Vachss. And it's someone from the outside. A woman sending an email or recording to her sister who's still underground. And apparently, unless this is some kind of trap or lie, it does look like the outside is fine. There's no poison in the air. And people have rejected the society since the terror. People actually have families. And I love how she writes her sister, and it's just almost in awe. She says, yeah, and parents here don't have sex with their children. They can't. Not because there's a rule about it, but because they just know it's wrong. And it's no matter how much money you have, you still can't have sex with a child. So it just shows like the sick world they grew up in. That it just amazes this sister, the writer of this, where she's just like, you got to check this out. It's crazy. So it sounds like there's some hope. And I didn't mention the artist here, Jim Cheff. Kind of like this art. It's almost just like like underground type fanzine art or something. Like this guy could have drawn for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something back in the 80s. So she's urging her sister Logan to join her on the outside, and says it's so much better up here, even though it's dangerous. It's not like this utopia. She said there's other groups that try to kill her because they don't have a rule against killing up on top. But she says, but as long as we stay alive, it's a much better life. And it's not the soul-crushing, soul-poisoning world that we've seen in almost every story in here. Almost every story in here has been negative. And just pretty immoral and depressing. So that's it, unfortunately. I really would love if other writers kept this going somehow. Really fascinating world Andrew Vachss creates with the help of all these other people. Very interesting anthology series because it's a shared world. So I hope you guys enjoyed looking at this. I know it was a lot of prose stories. That was annoying. I forgot it's about, I think, less than half is comics. But there's enough comics that it counts, that it belongs on this channel, I think. I don't think I was wrong to put it on. So thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully I'll see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.